All right. All right. Now that my mic isn't unmuted, is finally unmuted. All right. I got to get used to some of this stuff going on here. How is everybody doing tonight? As you're maybe seeing in the chat already, we are doing, it's new. We're using StreamYard. We'll see how this goes tonight. Hope we don't have any technical difficulties or anything like that. I just want to tell moderator Cherie that remember, if you need to pass along anything to me in the studio here, you can use that private chat button, and it will let me know that you're saying something to me. I did send you a message just in case, so you know that is there. If there's something that you got there you go. Okay, got it. All right, very good, Cherie. Very good. Thank you. All right, this is a live show for July 17th, 2023. And this is something that probably should have happened a while ago in an effort to reach as many people as possible. That we are using this application, this program called StreamYard, which I'm now learning is used by a lot of people. And this was something that moderator Cherie, who's in here tonight, thank you for moderating, Cherie. This is something that she told me that I should have done a few months ago, and kind of slipped through the cracks, dare I say. But then we had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and she reminded me again, and I was like, yep, I got to put that to the top of the list. So here we are on July 17th, 2023. You can now all say you were there when I had started using StreamYard for the live show. Of course, first we were on Facebook by itself. And then from, I don't know, maybe beginning of 2019 until last week, where we were on YouTube all by itself. And now we're on YouTube and Facebook together. Now you may be saying, well, Ed, last week, didn't you say you're going to be on Twitter and everything? Unfortunately, to be on Twitter, I have to up the kind of account I have with StreamYard. And really, at this point, it's just not worth it. At this point, the way it's set up now, I can have 3 destinations for this live show, and those are YouTube, the Facebook discussion group, and the Facebook page. And I think those are the most important. But we'll see. How it goes. And then, of course, if I go to the next higher plan, of course, it's more expensive. Then I'll be able to add in more destinations. I suppose Twitter. I've read that StreamYard's eventually going to be going to Instagram. I don't know, TikTok. And even, I suppose, we could set up something to go to the website. I could even send something, this live show playing, on my own personal page on Facebook. But for now, we're on YouTube. We're going right into the discussion group. And we're going right to the Facebook page. And if all of you are in those spots, the group and the page, then you saw this announcement come up today. And you might have said, well, that looks a little different than the way usually Ed sets it up. And you're right. StreamYard does that automatically once I type everything into. So all of you should know I'm not on YouTube or Facebook right now at all. I'm actually in the StreamYard website in my account, broadcasting from there. And what happens is the chat that's over on the right side of the screen, just like as you would see it, for example, on YouTube, it's right there, but it tells me if somebody's watching on Facebook, if somebody's watching on YouTube or wherever. And so the whole thing is a little bit different, but kind of the same. But really, the setting everything up is kind of very similar when I was just doing it on YouTube all by itself. So I'm hoping it's going to work out well. I hope that after the show's done tonight, that Many of you will send me any comments, concerns, things you noticed. If there were any technological hiccups or anything like that, I, of course, would like to hear about those things. Just understand if it's an internet thing, I'm not sure what I can do about it. But if there is a usage thing, something that doesn't quite seem, right to you or something, please email me at unfoundpodcast@gmail.com and I'll see what I can do. We'll try to analyze it together. For example, if you can't hear me, if you can't see me, if you're having a problem in the chat or wherever else, please let me know about it. And I think all of you who've gotten to know me decently well, I respond to messages really, really quickly. I love talking to all of you. You send me messages, whether it's something about an episode or suggestions or concerns or everything, I usually get back to you pretty fast. So in this situation, I would do the same. So let's see who is in here. And of course, also, I'll get to the overlay here in a moment. Who do we have in here? Charles, nephew Charles, what's going on? I'm going to Pennsylvania on Wednesday, Charles, for 2 weeks. I hope to see your mother there. And there's Cherie right there talking a little bit. And Charles is saying most of his friends use StreamYard. Okay. Paula, what's going on? Mary B. Good to see you, Charlotte, Karen. Marty, good to see you. Mark and Nitty, seeing a lot of familiar names. Mary, Glenn, The Real, Lisa, got a Facebook user. And once again, you are not under no obligation to use your real names. If you have usernames or whatever else, totally fine by us. But of course, on the other hand, there's a reason that we have a moderator for this show, because if things get out of hand, Cherie can bring the hammer down. But if you want to use fake usernames and everything, fine, it's fine. Whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, does not matter. Just keep it nice. There we can see you hear, yeah. Marty, love the graphics. Connie with a K, love that. Stacy, good to see all of you. Shrie's logged in, I guess, under other account too. Watching Facebook, a lot of Facebook users. Excellent. Just coming in anonymously. Totally fine. All right. As far as the overlay goes, anybody watching this, of course, maybe if you're watching on Facebook, the overlay for tonight is not going to make a lot of sense because you're looking at that area and saying maybe there's no button over there. These overlays are something that I'm going to experiment with. So bear with me as I work on them and try to figure out what works for me. But for anybody that's watching, of course, on YouTube, then that overlay then makes all the sense, of course, in the world, because that's pointing toward the subscribe button on YouTube. So if you're watching on the Facebook page and you're not a subscriber yet, go to the Facebook or go to the YouTube channel and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube and you're not you have a Facebook account and haven't liked or followed the page on Facebook, do that. If you're not part of the discussion group on Facebook, it's a good time to think about doing that right now as well. So there's a lot of crossover here, and I'm just going to have to figure out how to make the overlays. And what I mean by overlays is that little thing you see at the bottom. I can now make little graphics and things for whatever use and put them on the screen there, something I could not do when I was using YouTube exclusively. I can do that here. It's one of the main reasons I think that Cherie said, you know what, Ed, you really got to, check out StreamYard, that and the ability to go to different places at the same time, broadcast to different places. So the overlays, these pictures that I put here are going to be a work in progress. And I think I'm fairly artistic, so we'll see how that goes. Hello, Deborah, all YouTube here. Hello, Barbara, Kathy. On Facebook, no access to this YouTube live chat. That's fine. Everybody, I think, is getting to chat here, Kathy. Sorry you had a problem getting in there. But everybody's chats are put together. No matter if you're on Facebook or YouTube, you're all chatting together wherever you are. So I see you there, Kathy. So I hope that works out for you. All right. What do I have for you tonight? Well, as I was telling Cherie, we don't, of course, I have at least one, big good thing to talk about that happened since last Monday. And then I have one kind of in the middle type of thing that I need to talk about tonight. And then, unfortunately, we have a couple bad things, all very, very big topics to cover tonight. And of course, I am going to talk about, as it says in the description, going to be talking about the Long Island killer getting caught. Presumably, that's guy, of course, innocent until proven guilty, but I want to talk about that. Carlee Russell, have to talk about that. Want to talk about sex trafficking, especially since I got into a conversation with a good friend of mine who, is not into really true crime or anything at all, but we got into that discussion for a totally different reason. I'm going to talk about Jordan Carvalho. And of course, big news today, of course, is the Michael Turney trial. So I'm going to cover all of that in the next hour and 48 minutes, but just want to give you some updates on a couple things that are going on with me. Just to remind all of you that on Wednesday morning, I'll be flying to Pennsylvania to see my dad for 2 weeks. I'll be flying there on Wednesday, then coming back the day after my birthday, August 2nd. I'm flying Southwest. I haven't flown Southwest. I haven't flown Southwest since I flew out for the first Steve Pankey trial. Pretty sure. Used to fly Southwest all the time. But I'll be going up there. Going to be a very interesting time up there, and that's something I'll get into. I'm going to be playing a disc golf tournament up there. My brother Michael, Charles's uncle Michael, is going to come up and join me at Moraine State Park. I'm really looking forward to that. He's never been with me when I've disc golfed before. So that's going to be a first. Whereas my brother Brian, who lives here, has been gone with me to many disc golf tournaments and watched and hung out and whatever else. So this will be the first time for Michael. And so I'm really, really looking forward to that. That's July 29th. And I'll get into the other big thing that's going to be going on when I'm up seeing my dad as well. Also, you can probably tell that my voice is a lot better, man. Doing the live show last Monday did my voice no benefits at all. I had already hurt my voice earlier that day by singing without warming up. And then I did the live show, of course, talking for 2 hours. And you could probably even tell it listening to last Friday's episode, Paige Rinkowski's episode. You could tell my voice was just not, my voice was just not very good. I mean, I really, really labored through the interview that was done the day before. I really labored through the recording of it. It was tough. And finally, my voice got a break on Friday. And really, I did not talk that much this weekend at all. And so today, my voice is feeling fantastic. I was able to do my singing exercises and everything. But man, that is the worst my voice maybe has ever been. And you can really tell in that episode. And this is what I do. Voice audio stuff. That's what I do. That's what podcasting is. And the show must go on. So I did the best I could with the voice that I had. And I'm sure well down the road, years from now, when I go back and listen to that Paige Rinkowski episode, I'll be like, oh, yeah, that was that time I really messed my voice up. I hope to never, ever, ever do that again. I just have to learn that if I'm going to be hanging out in my condo here and playing heavy metal and singing, I have to warm up these days. I just can't sing now. My voice has gotten more dynamic and it needs to be warmed up. No different than like some sort of runner in track and field or something, because I really messed it up. See what everybody is saying here. Hello, Julian. Of course, former guest Julian Quaterio from New York City. Julian, what's going on? We got a listener from West Virginia in the chat. Excellent. In other words, I had to come to YouTube to access the live chat. Okay, that's fine, Kathy. Great. Good evening, DLV. Charles, I prefer Southwest. Okay. Yeah, all right. Jays and Mays, what's up? Facebook, can you sing for us tonight? I'm not ready to do that. I promise you, Facebook user, whoever put that, I promise you within maybe the next 2 months, I'll sing for you. I'll pick out a song, and it won't be an easy song. It'll be a fairly dynamic song. Within the next couple months, I'll do that. Promise. Got a viewer from Michigan. Mary said, I watched the replay. Your voice was rough sounding. Do these warm-ups, do? Yeah, I got to do that, Mary. And then there's Sean. Now, once again, another former guest of Unfound. Good to see you, Sean. I hope you are doing well. What's up, Unfounders? Hello to you. And look at the little picture there. What's up, Unfounders? Look at that little cutie right there in that picture for What's Up, Unfounders. That's great from Jay's and Mays. I love that. Okay. So, and you should know regarding my voice that one of the plans that I have is to, when I come back from Pennsylvania, I am going to start going to do some karaoke and some things and singing in front of people. Maybe I'll get some video. And what's convenient is the #1 rated karaoke bar in the entire Tampa area is only about not even 15 minutes away from where I live. So I'm certainly going to be checking that out when I come back from Pennsylvania. I'm really looking forward to that. Okay, let's get started. I think I have to go with the big news. I guess it's sad news today, and that is that Michael Turney has been acquitted even before the trial got to the part where the defense had to put up its side of the case. You should know there's something in these kinds of trials where the prosecution goes first, and the defense, before it even puts up its side of the case, can ask the judge, you know what? I really don't think the prosecution has made its case. So do we even have to go any further with this? Do we really have to do that? That's essentially what happened today. And the judge said, you know what? I think you're right. And the judge just stopped the trial right then. Now, what is unclear to me, and I'm going to get into why this happened and everything. What is still unclear to me? Now, you should know there's a friend of the podcast. Her name is Jill. I was keeping tabs on this, and she let me know when this happened. And she is still looking into what does this mean. Does this mean that he's off scot-free for the rest of his life? He can't be retried or anything. And I had some other things to do before I came to the camera tonight. Nobody has given me a definitive answer yet. Okay, just so you know, I'm going to play this a little bit. Nobody has given me a definitive answer. Of course, it is a huge tragedy if Michael Turney cannot be retried. And it's a huge tragedy. All right. But on the other hand, I don't know if I'm exactly surprised by this. I think if you were to go back to, since the time that he was charged and taken into custody, if you go back to whenever that happened, it must have, it seems like it's been a while now. It's like the beginning of COVID or something, 2020 maybe, 2021. It's been a while. So I've done a few update episodes since he was charged with Alyssa's murder. And I think if you go back and listen to those, you will see I had a lot of doubts. I had a lot of doubts about this. We can all certainly agree that Michael Turney is responsible for Alyssa's disappearance, but that doesn't necessarily make it a good case. It makes all the sense in the world that he did something to her. He sounds like a horrible guy. He's a kook. He's a wacko. Him getting her to sign a contract and all these other things. And obviously, but still get into a court of law. Well, you know what? As they say in sports, you know what? The other guys get paid too. You start complaining about your sport team. Why can't my team score a touchdown? Why can't they do this? We have to remember, you know what? The people on the other side of the ball, they're professionals too. And so with a trial, it's also the same thing. The defense gets its chance to make a good case that their client is not guilty. And what is the biggest issue with these types of disappearances or incidents or murders is that there's no body. In addition, dare I say, Alyssa kind of did fall into the demographic of a teenager who would run away from home all on her own. Now, some of you may say, yeah, and that made it even easier for Michael to do what he did because you could believe that she ran away, but when really he actually killed her or something, I agree with you. But we have to realize that the reason that this happened is because Alyssa Falls, it was just believable enough. And like I said, I've had doubts about this. I just wondered if they jumped the gun too fast on this. Why that would be, how could it be, quote unquote, too fast after 20 years of Alyssa going missing? It's a good question. But I do start to wonder, hey, we at Unfound, we covered Alyssa's disappearance back in 2018. Her sister was on. Of course, her sister did a fantastic job. But her sister also had her own podcast. Very, very popular podcast. Very happy how popular, how good she is at getting out the word about Alyssa's disappearance. And of course, the sister, of course, has a point of view, and that is that Michael certainly caused Alyssa's disappearance. But then I start thinking, being that this podcast was so popular and everything, I start to wonder, did the prosecution maybe start to feel the pressure on this? Alyssa's sister's out there. She's she's getting a lot of attention. She's on a lot of national shows. She's on Unfound and everything. And maybe the prosecution starts getting calls and emails. Hey, we keep seeing about when are you going to charge Michael Turney with Alyssa's disappearance or murder? It's all so obvious that he did it. Could that be a factor? I have no proof of that one way or the other. I don't know. But it does come to mind. Given that podcasting is my business, given that I know when we, some of the disappearances that we've covered, and suddenly I do get messages from people I've never heard before. Maybe they tune in for the first time and, you start causing a little rumble somewhere. Well, dare I say, Alyssa's sister, she caused a big rumble, and that's why she did it, and I applaud her. But could this have been a little bit of a double-edged sword, causing the prosecution to leap before it looked? This is something that that I think can happen. Prosecutions and prosecutors and district attorneys and police officers are people too. And if they were starting to get some crap or political pressure or whatever else, because we have to remember something. My understanding, of course, I'm not an expert on Alyssa's disappearance. All right, please understand that. But we also have to realize not much has changed since Alyssa went missing. to me, there were no big facts that came to be in the many, many, many years regarding her disappearance. I realized they found out some things about Michael and, bomb plots and everything else. But about the disappearance itself, the way I understand it for the most part, the facts are still the same in 2023 as the day, right around the time the Alyssa went missing. So what changed? What changed from then? And then suddenly in 2020 or something, they decided to, say, hey, we got to do this. I guess what I'm also saying is it a coincidence that this podcast devoted to Alyssa's disappearance comes out and then suddenly the prosecution brings a case against Michael Turney? I don't think those two things are a coincidence, is what I'm saying. I would have to say that they're probably, once again, we talk about causation and correlation. Did one cause the other? Did the podcast cause the charging of Michael? I think that I think I would have to say yes. And I know in my job, I just have to be objective about this. All right. I just have to be that way. All right. I'm not saying the podcast shouldn't have been done. It should have been. She's free to do whatever she wants. And United States, and this is the United States. You can start a podcast anytime you want. But I can't help but wonder, was this a side effect of that? And maybe pushing things a little too far, because I've had these conversations with guests before that things are so obvious. And we know what those disappearances are. Many, many other unfound disappearances, dare I say, where we know way, 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 way better what happened than certainly in Alyssa Turney's disappearance. I mean, I'm sure if that I went through all of Unfound's disappearances, I could probably pick out 50 that are more obvious as to what happened to those people, no matter if they're men, women, young or old, than with Alyssa. Now, it's still, I guess, to a lot of people fairly obvious what happened to her. But given that we cover such a wide demographic of people and a wide different demographic of different kind of disappearances, when you compare her disappearance to these others, hers doesn't look as obvious. It only looks very obvious what happened to her if you only look at her disappearance alone. But when you start comparing her disappearance to 300 other ones randomly picked, then it's not quite as obvious. And going along with what I said before, with a lot of these families that want justice and they wonder why the police won't charge them, even though there's no body and everything else. And I tell them, you get into court, you just don't know what can happen. Once again, I'm a realist. I realize that there are certainly a lot of people who should be brought to trial, even though no bodies have been found. The husband of Angela Green is always almost number one in my choices all the time. Why? Because he told all these stories that are crazy. On the other hand, I try to tell him, yeah, it's obvious. But so I feel horrible. And I think I was not following it. A couple of my assistants were following it. This woman, Jill, who's helped out Unfound quite a bit over the years, has been following it. And, you get wrapped up in these things, and sometimes maybe you're not as objective as you should be. It was a shaky case. It was a shaky disappearance case. Although I can certainly understand all the people who think that Michael Turney did. I suppose if I was pressed, I'd even say that Michael Turney is responsible. But there's some wiggle room in there, and obviously it was enough. This isn't like this isn't a Steve Pankey situation where, if you're going to ask me, yeah, I think it's more obvious that Michael Turney did something to Alyssa than Steve Pankey did something to Joan Matthews. In fact, I don't even think it's close. then how do we square that Steve Pankey goes to jail, but Michael Turney doesn't? It's hard to figure. It's really, really hard to figure. And it would be interesting to know what the jury has to say about all this. What way was the jury leaning? Of course, we know the defense had not put on its case yet or whatever, but at that point, which way was the jury leaning? It would be interesting to know. It would be interesting. So what's everybody, let me catch up with, we got a ton of comments tonight. Wow. I probably think it's due to us being on multiple platforms. Hello, Sean. Yeah, Mary says, yo, you better sing. I'd love to go to karaoke. Well, you should go back. Keep going, Charlotte. Mary, you better sing for us. I need, okay, I will. I promise, Mary. Thank you, Sean. I really appreciate you saying that, Sean. You're very kind. Thank you. That was like 14 minutes ago. I'm sorry, but I got a little roll. Hello. Yeah, Charlotte says it's terrible. Hey, there's Kelly Bruce. I can't pronounce her married last name there. Brian Schaefer, expert. Hello, Kelly. How are you? Yeah, Mary's saying it's awful about Michael Turney. A verdict was that he was acquitted, Marcus. That's the language they're using. It never got to the jury. As you see, Cherie's kind of explaining it. Feels so bad for the family members, Mary says. What do you think happened to her? I like I said, Charlotte, if you're really going to press me, I think that Michael harmed her. And in fact, I think I could even go as far as to say that he planned it. I mean, we really don't think that he goes and takes her out of school that half day and then she goes missing and those are just coincidences, do we? But easy for me to talk. It's not, it's not a courtroom. I'm not under oath. And the judge was the one that heard everything to that point. So, but like I said, I didn't have a chance to follow the trial. Mary says, I feel they did jump the gun. I was surprised that they brought the case to trial because they didn't have any more evidence, I don't think. If there was no trial, my guess would be that this was dismissed without prejudice, so they get more evidence. Well, Jay's, it was kind of half a trial. The prosecution got to put on its side, and at the end of that side of it, the judge said, you know what, I really don't think this is worth going for, wasting anybody's time. Those are my words. The judge didn't say that. That's me saying that. Twinkle. That cannot be Twinkle in the chat tonight. Twinkle, how are you doing? We've been thinking about you, Twinkle. Been thinking about you very, very seriously, Twinkle. Spectacular to see you in the chat tonight. It just warms my heart. Twinkle, twinkle, twinkle. Man, it's so good to see you. Wow. All right. Deborah, if there's prejudice, they can bring them. There was prejudice. Yep. And what's Taylor? Hey, y'all. Yeah, Deborah, absolutely must say without prejudice. I doubt he was exonerated just like that. The case wasn't dismissed. Dismissed would allow future charges probably. Turney was acquitted. That means he cannot be charged again. Dismissal versus acquittal. Oh, my goodness. Mary says, yeah, I always think of the Angela Green case. You don't have to apologize if you're late. Yeah, Deborah, maybe different charges. Thanks, Mary. Not to mention the prosecutor was a joke. Yeah, Carrie, I know you were following it. Like I said, I did not follow it, but we have to ask. I guess what Carrie is saying there is maybe a different prosecutor would have done better. Okay. An acquittal means he was found not guilty and cannot be retried. If charges were just dismissed, he can be recharged. Judge's discretion, state laws, and opinions. Okay, Shri. I've been good. Stitching. How have you been? I've been good. Good to see you. Good to see you in the chat, coming to us on YouTube. Okay, Charlotte agrees with me. Betty, sure helped me to remember the live when I saw it on Facebook. We'll be doing it from now on. Marty, what's going on? Not surprised, still fairly upsetting. Like the Gong Show. Hi, Twinkle. Twinkle's getting a lot of shout outs here. Glad to see Twinkle in the house. J's equals joy. And okay, now I know that. I'll have to remember that. Lana, what's going on? Lana, by the way, is a great woman's name. I love the name Lana. Of course, I think of Lana Turner, and isn't Natalie Wood's sister's name Lana Wood, right? Yep, he was acquitted. I can't even tell you how many times I screamed at the prosecutor. Okay, Carrie. So this is just we don't, it'd almost be better. I don't, would any of us feel better if the jury just said, you know what, prosecution, you didn't prove your case, the defense put on, and then they just said, you know what, sorry, but would we feel any better? I don't know. It just feels, especially when, as we're talking about in here, it seems that that's it. There's no do-overs. Unless there can be something shown that went against the law or something the defense did that was not right. That's it, I guess, as Shri has been explaining, an acquittal. It's the worst of all worlds. It's just the worst of all worlds. If we're gonna lose something like that, I guess once again, whatever the situation, just wish they'd just let it play out. I think I really believe that if it just played out the way it's supposed to go, the defense gets to put on its side of the case. It goes to the jury, and jury says, you know what? We found him not guilty. Sorry about that. It'd still be horrible, but I don't think we would all feel like this. This just feels, like something's been stolen or something. So shocking, I guess, but I've been talking about this for a couple years now. I just thought that it was dicey from the start. And when I start comparing Alyssa's disappearance to many, many others, those others seem way more convincing, way more assured than Alyssa's disappearance did. And that's one of the main reasons I started to really doubt this path. I really started to doubt it. But, I'm not a long guy. Lana, okay, so we're talking about Alyssa, the disappearance of Alyssa Turning, Lana. Her stepfather was on trial for her disappearance, and before they even got to the defense, the judge acquitted Michael Turney because the prosecution hadn't proved its case. This is a disappearance back from 2001. And Alana says on YouTube, Latoya. Okay, Latoya from Harlem. Okay, Lana, very good. Just talking on just bad. Yep. Twinkle says, sure, I've been missing my Unfound peeps. Twinkle, we've been missing you. I want you to know that. I'm looking right at the camera. I want you to know we've been missing you too. Okay, I want you to know that. I hope you're well. Mary says, I feel so bad for Sarah. So many times the prosecutor goes to trial with insufficient evidence as they overcharge. with something they can't prove is injustice for the victims. Reminds me of the Emily Noble case, getting acquitted like that. It happens. And it's sad, but it's your justice system. Some awful people get away with it, but you know what? His community will never forget. Let him not forget. So he may be in prison, but he'll be in a different prison of his own making. All right. Twinkle's talking to Kathy. Way too dicey, Carol. Defense cited Rule 20 and judge agreed, which is how acquittal happened. Deborah, if he doesn't answer for his charges in this life, he will have to answer to a higher power when he dies. If people have that belief system, certainly so, Deborah. But of course, I think we're mainly worried about the material world here, and we just can't let these kinds of things happen. Like I said, I'm not even 100% that Michael caused Alyssa's disappearance. It just feels like it's a little bit of a cop out, a little bit of, of a robbing that the people, the jury, didn't get to have a say in this. That's what feels kind of empty to me. That's the thing that I think irks me. Little star. Yeah. Twinkle, twinkle, little star. That's funny. Montana. I had a former roommate of mine in Las Vegas was from Montana, Facebook user. Interestingly though, Montana is one of the states that I've never visited. Deborah says I'm about 98% that Michael Turney killed Alyssa. Okay. So that just happened today. That was not on the agenda. I knew the trial was going on. I had plans to at least talk about it tonight. Little did I know I would be talking about, this, an acquittal the way this happened. So there you go. By the way, what I haven't brought up yet, if you are watching this video and have the ability to do so, I would sure like some likes and thumbs up and whatever you can do on Facebook. We know on YouTube, you got to give the thumbs up, and that's why the overlay is there. So everybody can see thumbs up. It's right there on the screen. You can't say I forgot. It's right there in front of you. And of course, for you YouTube people, that subscribe button is pointing you to the subscribe down there in the bottom right-hand corner. I know the Facebook people, that's not going to make any sense. But please, if you are watching, thumbs up, give it a heart, give it a like. That's what we're doing here. Marty says, I think everyone agrees he had something to do with it. I just think the case was fast forwarded to trial, and sometimes when that happens, you get an unfavorable outcome. Yeah, I guess what we're saying, Marty, though, and I agree with you, it's weird to think about a disappearance that's 20 years old that got fast forwarded to trial. But for some reason, I think a lot of people feel that way. And because I've felt that way since the day that Michael got charged. Even though the disappearance is 20 years old, it still felt like they were rushing, which is really weird. It's really weird. I don't know why. The fact they weren't able to find the tape of the day Alyssa disappeared was a huge red flag to me. Of course it would be, Marcus. Thank you. Mary said it's a weird case. So much left in question. I don't like the trial outcome. I think he did it. But is he this smart to hide any other evidence? Mary, it doesn't even matter now. Because as I think we're saying as a group here, he can't be retried. So, all right, very sad. So let's move on to some other things. Another story is that Jordan Carvalho, this is a disappearance that Unfound covered, I think, a year and a half ago. This was a disappearance that is interesting to me because I've been to Golden Valley, Arizona. I've been through there many times. That's right there near Kingman. I had a job back in the day when I would drive down to Kingman, go to some offices there, then take that highway that goes over to Bullhead City and go right through Golden Valley, Arizona. And there's this road there that is straight and flat. and you can just see miles and miles ahead. That's where Golden Valley, Arizona. If you look on a satellite view, you'll see what I'm talking about. That's what I always think about when I think of Golden Valley, Arizona. Well, unfortunately, Jordan Carvalho's remains have been found. They were found in a wash in the Golden Valley, Arizona area. They were actually found in September of 2022, so like 9 months ago. And they were just identified, I guess, through DNA just within the last couple weeks. You might remember Jordan had some issues, drug issues, etc. And one day he walked off with a backpack, never to be seen again. And at some point during a search or something, somebody came across his backpack out in the middle of the high desert outside of Golden Valley. And now we know that his remains have been found. I don't know. Considering it's the desert and it's been this long, I'm guessing it was just bones. So even if it were foul play, I don't know how they would ever prove it, unless if they found his skull, there's a bullet hole or something like that. So I think we might just have to be comfortable with the idea that we may never know why Jordan Carvalho went missing. I think a lot of people back at the time, given he had some drug issues, other things going on, thought that he just walked off and died due to the elements or whatever. But if that's not the situation, I really don't think we're ever going to know. So once again, Jordan Carvalho, that was a disappearance that, like I said, I think that was the beginning of 2022. Let me just check something here. Was it 2022 or 2021? We're going back a ways now. Maybe I missed it. Stuka, Villarreal, Strassner, Quillen. January 7th, 2022. Thank you. January 7th, 2022. Very good. So like I said, a year and a half ago. And the way I remember it, I think this is a fairly newer disappearance. So very sad. I have not tried to contact his mother, who was the guest for that episode, although I did speak to his grandmother as well. They live together there in Golden Valley. So I haven't had a chance to reach out to her yet. I probably will. But as I always state with these things, I don't want to seem like, this happens and then I'm flying in, to get more. It makes me feel like a vulture or something. And I'm not that. So I just got to give it some time. But I hope to talk to his mother about how, all of this happened. And if I can talk about it publicly, I will do that. Let's see what everybody is saying. Jill, what's going on? I was talking about you earlier, being that you were giving me the info on Michael Turney. Yeah. Yeah, you mean besides me? Oh, yeah. Yeah, Carrie and Jill are friends. All right, so thank you. I think I'm going to watch from YouTube to Facebook for the second half, see if there's any difference between the two. Mark, you do that and let me know which is better. And that would be very interesting for me, Mark. That's very interesting. I love that idea. And Marty says I may do the same. Thank you for experimenting, people. CR, what's going on? Thanks for the show. What's going on, CR? So Jordan Carvalho, of course, a lot of these things, of course, Alyssa's case, Jordan Carvalho, we have another update episode coming out at the end of August. I will talk about probably them in a lot more detail when I get to that episode. And maybe there'll be some more revelations in both of those situations before we get to the end of August. We'll just have to see. Marcus, how far was remains from? I don't know. Jordan Carvalho, I don't know. All of the information is very general. I think the only way I'm going to find that out, Marcus, is talking to his mother. which I haven't done yet. I'll try to find that out. It's certainly on my mind. It's good of you to think of that question too, Marcus. Facebook has a much larger stream. It does. Okay. You can see more comments on YouTube, Carrie. All right, so a lot of people are going back and forth. That's very interesting. Once again, give this video a heart on your phone, on your tablet. Give it the thumbs up if you're on YouTube. That would greatly help us. All right, let's move on to this. The Long Island serial killer. Now, before I get into this, I'm not an expert on this topic. I've certainly followed it. I've read the Wikipedia page, but I know some of you have been fairly obsessed with this for very good reason. When you have so many women found in a very small area, very concentrated area, and this is out in Long Island where rich people live and everything. It's not where you'd usually expect to find a lot of dead women buried in the dirt and sand out there. But that is exactly what happened. And this has been going on for quite a while. And little did we know, I guess, as the public, is that the police have still been working on this, and I guess been working on it pretty fairly hard. And I've also read that over the years, a lot of names have been brought up. Even a former chief of police has been suspected as maybe being the killer. Well, now there is somebody in custody, and his name is Rex Heuermann, and he lived not far from Gilgo Beach, where most of these women were found. So I'm going to just read this article, and even though, once again, I'm not an expert on all of this, like I said, I know many of you have followed this for years and years and years. I kind of look at this from a different point of view, but we're learning more about Rex Heuermann, the man arrested Thursday night in connection to the Gilgo Beach murders. He was charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder and 3 counts of second-degree murder in connection to the deaths of Megan Waterman, Melissa Bartholomew, and Amber Costello, whose bodies were found in close proximity to one another in 2010, so 13 years ago. Heuermann appeared before a judge Friday afternoon and pled not guilty. Investigators on Friday shuffled in and out of a building at 36th Street and 5th Avenue, where sources say Heuermann worked. And just outside the building, we're learning a pizza box he left in the garbage was key to the case. Heuermann grew up in Long Island and attended Berner High School. James Pagano, a Massapequa Park, went to high school with Heuermann. I was like, holy crap, unbelievable. Right in our town, he said. He was very quiet, dark, kept himself, extremely intelligent, very smart. Heuermann worked in Midtown as an architect who ran a company called RH Consultants and Associates. YouTube Antoine Amira, who runs a page called Bonjour Realty, interviewed Heuermann about his work about a year ago. And I posted that in the group and on the page on Facebook. I watched the entire video, and I will talk a little bit about that in a bit. What has this job taught you about yourself, Amira asked. I think it's taught me more about how to understand people, Heuermann said in the video. CBS News New York spoke to Amira on Friday after Heuermann's arrest. Really what stood out is his attention to details. Amira said he is very knowledgeable, very detail-oriented. Amira added Heuermann had a distinct physical presence. Intimidating? No. Imposing? Yes. Very, very imposing. He's a head above me, very large person. I still remember his handshake when we met. Very strong handshake. It's like you were shaking a very big piece of marble. That's how strong his hand was. Amira added, the human nature is fascinating because you never know who you have in front of you. It's very unsettling at the same time, but also fascinating. CBS New York watched investigators carry at least 4 computers out of the building where Heuermann worked, and court records reveal investigators found a key piece of evidence just outside of Heuermann's office back in January. Detectives say he threw away a pizza box, and then investigators ordered a DNA swab of the leftover crust. Police say they confirmed just last week that the DNA matched a hair found on a burlap-type style material that was used to tie up one of the victims, Megan Waterman. People who work on the other floors of the office building say they never saw Herman, but they're stunned by the news. It's a little scary that he was 2 floors above me, right on the 9th floor. No one had any idea, obviously. That's really scary. It went on far too long, which is also horrifying. I'm just in shock to find out he worked in my building. I could have been in the elevator with him, somebody else said. Investigators say he also used burner phones to contact sex workers between 2021 and 2023. Photos show him in a cell phone store in Midtown in May, where police say he added minutes to one of his burner phones. We're also learning more about Herman's finances. Nassau County records show he owed more than $425,000 in taxes he failed to pay. He also filed several lawsuits accusing drivers of hurting him in car accidents. 3 of those cases were settled or discontinued. And so I also want to read this, what it said in Wikipedia. On July 13th, 2023, a 59-year-old Nassau County resident was arrested in Midtown Manhattan and subsequently charged with 3 counts of first-degree murder, as well as 3 counts of lesser charge of second-degree murder. The suspect is an architect and has lived much of his life in Massapequa Park on Long Island. According to an interview he did with YouTuber, he has worked in Manhattan since 1987. Authorities began to seriously consider him a suspect in March 2022 after discovering that a Chevrolet Avalanche registered in his name had been linked to one of the killings by a witness. Further investigation of his cell phone records indicated that he had been in contact with 3 of the 4 victims. Through June 2023, an email account linked to the suspect had conducted online searches of the investigation's progress. Court records also indicated that he had searched the internet for sadistic materials, child pornography, and images of the victims and their relatives. That's interesting. What just happened there, Cherie? Are you messing around with that, Cherie, or am I messing around with that? Let me go to solo layout there, Cherie. Are you messing around with the video, or am I messing around with the video? Through June 2023, an email account linked to the suspect to conduct an online searches of the investigation's progress. Court records also indicate that he had searched the internet. Okay, I read that. Hair believed to be from the suspect's wife, who was out of state during the murders, was found on or near the victims and was matched using DNA testing. DNA taken from a pizza box discarded by the suspect was also used in his identification. Yeah, sorry. She says my cat walked across the keyboard. That's funny. That's funny. All right, so let's see what everybody's saying here. Not all of us are rich, Marty says. I know a lot of Shannon Gilbert's case because of disappeared, but not much about the other murders on Gilgo Beach. For now, he's the Gilgo Beach serial killer. The police aren't sure if Rex is responsible for the other murders. I've read books about the Long Island killer, have studied him. They are sure he is the Gilgo killer. They are in a process of tying more deaths to him. Thank you for that, Marty. And not to give too much away, but Marty lives in the general area of where this all went down. This is right in my backyard. This is Julian Quaterio, everyone, by the way, former guest. I live less than 30 minutes from all this, so we're all relieved they may have the perpetrator of these crimes. Sayonara to another serial killer, hopefully. Mark says, back to YouTube. Chat is much more inclusive of comments on YouTube. Okay. Charlotte says the guy's really tall. Marty says, what's really scary is this guy lives 2 blocks from, so Marty's revealing where he lives. Carrie, I hope people don't think house is a marker. I've been gone from home, more than home, for the last 3 weeks. Marty, he had a really nice vintage truck in his driveway. My dad wanted to buy it, but he refused. Just an odd guy all around. Wow, Marty, so you have had some interaction. Pictures of the relatives. That's creepy. Yeah, everybody's saying some things. Okay. And then here's what sticks out to me. Just getting right to this because I want to cover some other things. You know, what's come out about this? You know, what's always interesting to me about this is when something like this is resolved, all of a sudden all the profilers start coming out of the woodwork. Well, we had this one right. See, we profilers were really close on description of the man who is in custody for being responsible for those women murdered out who were found out in Long Island. I've talked about this before. I think profiling, I really don't know how much of a science it really is, to be honest with you. I mean, seriously, is any, as a white guy myself, is anybody really surprised he's a white guy? Most serial killers are white men. Is anybody really surprised that he lived in the area? Is anybody really surprised that he was educated? Is anybody really surprised that he was into child pornography or in whatever else? You don't need to have some sort of advanced degree in psychology, sociology, and all of that to be able to guess these things. The problem I have with profiling is that it's all hindsight 2020. These people cannot pick out who did it. They have no ability to do that. They cannot predict something that's going to happen in the future. And when crimes are unsolved for as long as these have been, they're no help in tracking anybody down. We have to remember what got Rex caught. Rex got Rex caught if he did it. DNA, and witnesses and all these other things. It's not like profilers, can sit there and say, get so specific as it is this guy on this street at this address. If they could, that would be fantastic. It's like a pseudoscience. And I realize there's a TV show, The Profiler. All of these profilers who've done all these TV shows and written all these books and get all this fame in it, none of them caught anybody. Zero. Don't get me wrong. I understand why people find what they have to say interesting. I can understand, unfortunately, people kind of think it's fun to read what these people have to say. It's certainly what, these profilers, and when they go on TV shows, they certainly ought to get a lot of, conversation going, but they're not stopping any crimes. They're not getting anybody caught. Rex Heuermann was not caught due to profiling. But if you go out there, there's so many articles now written about how these profilers got him right. Well, if they were so right, maybe he should have been caught back in like 2010. It drives me nuts. It really, really drives me nuts. I know many of you take a deep interest in this, but for me, I have to, what have I said before? I'm for everything that works. I'm not for anything that doesn't work. Profiling doesn't work. It doesn't catch anybody. It does not catch anybody. They've been profiling the Zodiac killer for 50 years. Guess what? Never caught. So it just seems, these profilers to me seem to be opportunists. As soon as something like this is breaking, suddenly they're just popping up in the news everywhere, extolling the virtues of profiling. They had nothing to do with this. Nothing. So that's my profiling rant that I get to have, I guess, once a year on this live show. I just think it's a pseudoscience, and I'm not saying any of this would be better, but certainly if all profilers went away today, I don't think solving crimes would get any more difficult. I think that they don't help. I don't know if they necessarily hurt, but it's like a net zero type of thing. They get way more attention for what they do than what they've actually added to solving crimes, my opinion. Charlotte says, no, he's a big guy and I'm 6 feet myself, but he's a big guy. Yeah. Not shocked. No, it's a confirmation bias. What about all the profilers that were wrong? I think a lot of people thought he was law enforcement. Yeah, that is true, Marty. That one, of course, you live in the area. We know about this. That one police chief or whatever. Everybody pointing the finger at him. Deborah, he's a big guy now, at almost 60. Imagine 15 years ago. Yeah, right. Charlotte, it seemed that the police were not really even trying to find him till last year. I really thought it was former law enforcement myself. Okay, Carrie. Marcus, I disagree to extend. Profiling is a tool to narrow down a suspect pool. I guess the issue, Marcus, is that, as I stated before, is anybody really surprised that the killer was a white guy? I'm not. Is anybody really surprised that he lived in the area? No. But it certainly may, so it very well may be that a profiler could narrow out all of the non-white men outside of the Gilgo Beach area, but how many white guys live in that area? I mean, thousands? That's I'm not here to argue with you or anything, but that doesn't sound like much narrowing down. If a profiler can narrow down the possibility of suspects to 3, I would say that's pretty dang good, but I don't think any profiler can do that. I don't even think a profiler can narrow it down to 100. So what can narrow it down to, video and DNA and everything else? That's just the way I look at it. Profiling is really hammed up in the movies. It is the real coming to us from Australia. I agree with that. Even with the profilers, the solve rate for violent crimes is terribly low anyway. Yeah. It's, I think, Mark, maybe some months ago, I was talking about that, with all these new things we have, social media and GPS and the video cameras and everything else, the closure rate for murder in the United States is as low as it's ever been, which that doesn't make any sense, does it? But that's a fact. Part of the problem with his not getting caught was that some of the victims were so secretive about who they were seeing. Profiling is a little bit like inverse psychics. They take what we all know and expand upon the facts and make guesses based on what we know and come up with a prediction from that. Yeah, don't even get me, Julian, don't even get me started about psychics. True Crime Spotlight, how are you? So that is my little rant on profiling. Now, as far as that YouTube video, if you watched it, no doubt that he's a weird guy. And dare I say, I think what we now know about him a year later, now that he's been caught and his finances and everything are starting to come out, he was obviously exaggerating the entire way through that video. Certainly seemed to be very high on himself, stuck on himself. Certainly came across as, being the smartest guy. Nobody else knows anything about this. And me, I come in and I take care of things. That's what the entire video is. And it very well may be the truth. I don't know anything about building engineering or architecture in New York City or, examining buildings. And I know nothing about it. But he did seem to be very, very boastful and arrogant. And maybe that shouldn't, given that we suspect we know what he did, maybe that shouldn't surprise us. Of course, the opposite is also true. There are a lot of men and women who act exactly like Rex did in that video who have never killed anybody. So you can't even use that as a getting back to profiling. You can't even use that as a profiling marker because There are a lot of people who act like Rex who probably have never killed anybody. But he's weird. Weird guy. I have to admit, if I was in New York City and needed an architect or whatever else, the kind of business that Rex is in, after watching that video, I would surely have crossed him off my list of ever hiring him for anything. I don't think he did himself any favors if he was doing that video, for marketing reasons or whatever else. I don't think he helped himself. And I realize also that there are people who have really diced that video up, and some of the things he said about a crowbar and the persuader and all this, that certainly caught a lot of people's attention, especially given what everybody now thinks that he did to all of those women. So you should watch that video. And the video was just done like a year ago. So as you're watching it, just remember, you're watching a guy who just last week was charged with the murder of several women. And outside of the weirdness and everything, you kind of look at him and say, you know what? Kind of looks just like any white guy that you might pass on the street, except for him being like a huge guy. Other than that, seems just like an average white guy out there. And that's, that may be one of the reasons that they didn't charge it with anything, until now. Very well could be. And it very well also may be why these women who, if we're to believe that he's the killer, went to meet him, that, granted, I don't know. I have to be honest. I don't know how discerning these women are. I think that they just show up and do whatever they're going to do and get paid whatever they're going to pay, no matter what kind of guy it is. But also, on the other hand, I could also think maybe a guy pulling up in a what was it, an avalanche, Colorado Avalanche, pulling up like that. If he was wearing a suit, you can see how they might let down their guards after a while. Maybe not in the first couple minutes, but maybe after 10 minutes, after 15 minutes, after 20 minutes. And then that puts him in a situation where he could have killed them. Not to mention that he's a big fella. And my understanding is most of these women were very tiny, like 4'11", 5 feet tall, 5'2". So they would be at a severe disadvantage. He probably lulled them into a false sense of security and then did what he did. And my guess is everything of him put together is why he was able to get away with it so long. And even though these other women probably knew that something was going on, hey, somebody's making women in my business, what I do, disappear. None of them really thought it was this guy. Very well could be. I think Shannon was murdered, Charlotte said. That's how he got away with it for so long. Okay, thank you, Facebook. That whole Shannon case was not handled properly. Marty, Shannon's case brought down everything. I think that's because she almost got away from him. Something went wrong with her. Murder, maybe he got comfortable and messed up. Could be. Let me see here. Twinkle, so far, he appears to be pretty prototypical. Yep. Charlotte says, it really makes you wonder about everyone. It does. Marty says, I think a major problem finding out who did the Gilgo killings was the terrain. The terrain was awful. You can't move in the woods by the beach. It's not like regular woods. It's unbelievably thick. The fact they found any of those bodies at all is shocking to me. Once again, Marty lives in the area, right? Marty had some of it because no one knew what they were going to see. Check out a bunch of cases out. If Tennessee, my channel, we don't, unfortunately, this is not the place to market your own work there, True Crime Spotlight. Hello, Facebook user. I hope you're doing well. Thank you. Yeah, Sheree, just keep, we don't mind people making comments, but this is, the chat section is not a place to market your own show and what you're doing. That's not, you go start your own show. Go with God, but you can't do it here. Twinkle says, I agree about profiling the profilers. Yeah, true crime. You can't do that. Please, marketing of other people's stuff is not permitted in this chat. You want to talk amongst yourselves about things, but no marketing of TV shows and other podcasts and everything, please. Twinkle, I agree about profiling the profilers. Okay, Twinkle, you're coming in strong tonight. You must have been saving up. You've been resting, and it's so good. I'm just going to say it again, Twinkle. So good to see you in the chat tonight. I just want you to really, really, really know that. So, what's still unclear to me regarding, I don't know why Shri, why did Jay's Amaze get banned? Don't ban Jay's Amaze. Julian, if you're still watching out there, I don't know why you got, see if you can fix that, Shri. As far as what's still unclear to me, is that apology accepted, true crime, no problem. It's still unclear to me what led them to him. What is weird to me is they're talking about a bunch of evidence that seems was available back in 2010, the Colorado avalanche, the phone stuff and everything. I'm just wondering why it became something now. If they had collected that information back then, because remember, as far as looking at this timeline, it seems he very well may have killed other women in the meantime, but it's hard for me to understand that what led everybody to him after all these years when they keep talking about evidence that seemingly has been available for a long time. Did somebody drop the ball back then? Did a set of new eyes look at it? I just, it's hard for me to determine. But as I have written here, the DNA giveth and the DNA, taketh away. And that is, there are no new facts regarding the murders in at least these last few years. All this information that's being talked about is from years ago. Like, for example, the phone contacts with 3 of them. The Colorado avalanche connected to one of them. But the idea that I get is, were they waiting for the DNA to catch up? They must have had DNA on this guy. And, of course, they collected DNA just recently as well off that pizza box. Did they get DNA at the time, and did the science all finally catch up to something? And this is one of those things where how long are you going to wait for the DNA science to catch up with the DNA sample that you have? And what I would be concerned about is that if they had this information about Rex Heuermann back in 2010 or whenever it was regarding the phone information, regarding the Colorado avalanche, and then they had to wait all of this time for the DNA to be processed or the science to catch up, are they not then risking that more women will get killed in the meantime, even though they have a pretty good idea who did this? Because it would seem to me that the phone information would have been available back then. And so what are the odds that more than one guy is talking to all of these women who eventually were murdered? It seems, talk about profiling, that's the kind of profiling that I'm interested in. Was there one guy who spoke to all of these women before they got murdered? It seems that Rex Heuermann was that guy. Why didn't they go get him back then? Is that not good enough? And if they're saying, well, we really, 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 really wanted to be sure and we have DNA and everything else, how far are you willing to risk it that in the meantime you're waiting for science, which you're really not, you're not the scientist. The scientists out there trying to figure this stuff out. You're a police officer, investigator. You're not working, you're not a chemist or anything. You're just waiting around hoping, fingers crossed that the DNA science will catch up. And Rex Heuermann's out there possibly killing other women. Because I did as good a search I could do. It doesn't seem that Rex Heuermann was on anybody's radar until like last year. All of these other people who have been named over the years, chief of police and these other names that, once again, you can find on Wikipedia, other places. Rex's name is nowhere. But it seems, the way I read the information now in July of 2023, is that it seems they kind of did know about him for quite a long time. Hopefully, eventually, this will all be a lot clearer. It's just, this is the kind of thing that worries me about being so attached to DNA. That, murders did used to be solved without DNA. In fact, DNA, up until about 1995, a lot of murders were solved without DNA. It's only been within the last almost 30 years that it's become a major part of investigation. You don't need to wait for the DNA science to catch up if you have proof that this guy's truck was around one of the murdered women. You don't need DNA if you can prove that this guy spoke to 3 of those women right before he was murdered. And then you can start looking, guess what? He lives a couple blocks away. Oh, this, oh, that. So that's why I say the DNA giveth and the DNA taketh. I'm just hoping we don't find out that the police have known about this guy for like 10 years. And in the meantime, he actually killed other people. That would be horrible. We talk about Michael Turney, getting away seemingly with Alyssa Turney's murder. It very well may be that Rex Heuermann murdered a couple women even after the police already suspected him for all these other murders. I think that's very possible. And that is not good. So let me, the phones for one thing. Twinkle coming back with fire. She is coming back with fire, Marty. The major thing was his vehicle was seen at one of his victims' houses when he picked her up. Like I said, Charlotte, this seems to be something that was known back in 2010 or whatever. Would that not have been enough? Why did they wait then until 2023 to go get him? I don't know. They solve it the past year. They must not have cared about the women. I don't know. Coffee Ed, I think so. Hey, what's going on, Coffee? Only took the new investigation team 6 weeks to ID him as a possible suspect for the first time. So what Gordon is saying is, yes, it was new people, new eyes on the case. And it very well may be that a bunch of people flubbed it, going back several years. Thank you for that, Gordon. Great comment there. Thank you. I think there was a lot of politics involved with the case. Rex is a high-profile guy. I think before they moved on him, they wanted to be 100% sure. It would be interesting to know what kind of political situation we're talking about. Does he know the mayor or something like that? That might be interesting to me, Marty. I think this case is going to be huge when it's all finished. He probably has friends in high places. Dumb question. How did he kill him? I guess I forgot. Strangulation, I think, Deborah. I think. What are you telling me, Shri? Got it. Yeah. All right. Sorry. Join once again, if you were out there, that's just a factor of me hitting the wrong button. You were certainly not meant to be banned. I apologize. And if we can undo that, Joanne, we'll certainly try to do that. But I deeply, deeply apologize to that. I think there was just a couple messages moving in unison. If you're watching out there, I deeply apologize. Like I said, new things going on tonight. Want to know if he has a connection to the driver or the party host connected to the woman whose attempted escape kicked off this mystery. Yeah, that's a good question. Did Marty, you are local to that area. Any connection between that you've heard of between Rex and that doctor or whoever he was that had that house where the woman showed up and then ran off. Any connection between that you've heard of, once again, being local? I was thinking the driver had to be in on it, it seems. Okay, Deborah. So one more thing, though, about this guy. Could he be responsible for any of Unfound's disappearances? Of course, we've covered two that might fall into that category, and those being Chelsea Cobo and Cassandra Ramirez. I don't think so. It doesn't seem, I don't know if they quite fall in the same demographic. I don't know if either of them were prostitutes. I think that both of them might have had a drug problem. In fact, Chelsea Cobo, on the day that she went missing, was going to rehab and then left. But I got to say, I do not think that Rex has anything to do with the disappearance of Chelsea Cobo and Cassandra Ramirez. So if you were wondering, if that was on your radar. Sarah Smile, do we have a Hall & Oates fan here? Sarah coming in, Sarah Smile, Hall & Oates. So there you go. All right. So continue to keep tabs on that. Like I said, I know many of you have been following that for a long time. I've watched a few things on it over the years. I've read on Wikipedia. I know many of you are more schooled on it than I am. I think a lot of people's perception was that it would never be solved. And then all of a sudden they have somebody in custody, of course, innocent until proven guilty. But it's just good to know that they're working on it. And it doesn't seem to me that believing that Rex killed these women is, too far out of the, possibility. Rockford says, I never bought law enforcement's conclusion that she got high, ran away, and died in the weeds. Yeah. Okay. Right. That's what started this all off. Charlotte, some of the women said one of their clients was rich. Doesn't sound like Rex was rich, but maybe. Chelsea did have a drug problem. I just think she was trying to get clean and people didn't like it. There you go, Jill. Sarah says, yes, Hall & Oates fan there. I thought so, Sarah. All right. I want to move on to now I have to talk about this other Carlee Russell. Going to read this story. Now, you should know that she has been found alive. This is something that happened just since the last live show a week ago. Going to read this story. An Alabama woman who went missing after telling a 911 dispatcher that she saw a toddler walking alone on the side of an interstate has returned home. Carlee Nicole Russell, 25 years old, had been missing since Thursday night, so 4 days ago, when she called 911 and told a dispatcher that she saw a child on the side of the interstate 459 South. After the call, Russell stopped her vehicle to check on the toddler and called a family member who lost contact with her, though the line remained open. When officers arrived at the scene, they found Russell's vehicle and some of her belongings, including her phone, but no sign of her or the child, according to police. At 10:45 p.m. Saturday, the Hoover 911 Center received a call that Russell had returned home. Hoover paramedics responded to the scene to assess Carlee and transported her to a local hospital for evaluation. Police also responded to the scene to investigate. It's unclear where Russell had been since Thursday, and no further details were provided. Additional information will be provided when it becomes available. The police department is very happy that Russell has returned home safely. We wanted her to come home safe and sound. One will hope that's what happened here, and I couldn't be more excited. I hope the community feels the same way, Police Chief Nicholas Durzitz said. The first thing is to give Carlee and her family a little time to get themselves back together. I know it's been a tough experience for them. When we think it's time to sit down and have a conversation with Carlee and try to get some facts, we'll do that. Good luck doing that. News of Russell's disappearance sparked a frenzied 48-hour search effort across the area. Durzis said that at times up to 50 or 60 police officers were working on the case. There are times you get overwhelmed. The story kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Hoover, a prominent suburb of Birmingham, is located just south of the city. I'm going to tell you, from the very first second I heard this story, I thought it was fake. And I'm hoping that for all of you who are tuned into this live show tonight, of course, I can't forget the people who will be listening to this as a podcast tomorrow. I'm hoping all of you also had a very critical eye on this and just didn't automatically believe this young woman's story. I'm hoping that listening to as many Unfound episodes as you have and listening to me interview people and being very, very specific in my questions and really trying to be a critical thinker and trying to get the guests to think critically as well, I'm hoping that your spidey sense went off, that something wasn't right as soon as you heard the story. I mean, really, she's going down a busy highway and she's the only one that sees a child walking on the side of the road. And it just happened to be that she pulls over to the side of the road. She doesn't mention any other cars or anything. And then she acts like somebody attacks her. Yeah, somebody was using this child as bait. How would somebody even predict that somebody would ever? I mean, how long are you going to sit there with a kid out there waiting for somebody to pull over? And how do you know that somebody who's going to pull over isn't going to be a police officer or a football team or a bunch of military, a bunch of Marines or something like that? How could you ever guess that it would be a young woman in a car by herself? This is the way you should think about these things. Now, of course, the issue is that if you go to a lot of the coverage on certain YouTube channels, for example, out there, this host totally bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. And in the comments section for those channels, you got a bunch of people who, once again, bought into it, hook, line, and sinker. Now, why is that? I'll get to that in a point in a moment. Now, there is a video out there, and of course, as soon as I saw the video, that even made me more sure of myself that, yeah, this was not any sort of abduction. Something was going on with this young woman, and it had nothing to do with a child that's walking along the side of the road. To describe the video for anybody that hasn't seen it, it's like from the back, far away, and Carlee's car is traveling on the highway away from the camera, and it's at night. But even in the video, when she appears in the frame, her car is already on the berm of the road. She's not even in one of the lanes. She's on the side of the road. And she already has her flashers on. And she continues to travel probably somewhere between 1/8 of a mile and 1/4 of a mile before she stops the car on the side of the road. And so the car stops and all these trucks and cars are going by her. And the car's sitting there, the flashers are on. What you see in the video is as soon as the car stops, presumably Carlee gets out of the car, but you'd think if there was actually a child on the road, she would go to the front of the car. Because I guess that would be where the child would be. Instead, what does she do? You can see her. She gets out of the driver's side. First of all, when she gets out, she almost walks right into a car passing by. She opens her door just as a car is whizzing by, like within feet of her. She gets out, shuts the driver's side door, goes around, and opens the passenger side door. Now, if there's a child running down the berm or in the grass or anything, are you really, is the first thing you're going to do, go over to the passenger side of your car and open the door? Of course not. What's also is obvious if you're paying attention to the video is there is no way she could have seen a child that far in advance. Yes, today, cars' headlights are fairly powerful, a lot more powerful than like 20, 30 years ago. We have LED lights and all that stuff. But headlights do not have the ability to see very well, like an eighth of a mile or a quarter of a mile down the road. If you get like a spotlight, like they have on police cars or something, of course, but you don't use those for headlights because you blind everybody coming the opposite direction. Headlights are good to be up to about the speed that you are driving. The headlights only have to be as powerful as your stopping distance. That's why headlights, for the most part, farther than about 200 to 250 feet in front of the car, they're no good. Because if you're going 70 miles an hour and something pulls out, pops out in front of you 250 feet away, if your brakes are good, you should be able to easily stop in that amount of time, or at least slow down and be able to steer around it. That's as good as headlights ever need to be. Headlights never need to be able to see 900 feet in front of you. But in the video, she's already on the side of the road, and she continues to travel for about 600, 700, 800 feet. There's no way she could have seen a child on the side of the road while she was on the berm of the road 800 feet away. No way. Zero way. Not to mention the cars that are passing her as she's on the berm of the road going by her. All those have headlights. There's nothing on the side of the road. Nothing. Nothing. It's obvious that there's just one person in the video. Driver gets out, opens the passenger's side door. So it was a big fake. And I had a couple people who, really are not into true crime or anything else. But they, being that this became a big story, hey, Ed, what do you think? I wrote back one word to both of them. Fake. Fake. Now, why is it that so many people, fall for this stuff? I'm going to tell you here in a second. I'm just going to read what everybody is saying. Marty's following up on the Rex guy, the killer. A lot of talk, but from what I hear, no connection. From what I heard, she was high at the time, all over the place. Remember, he wanted to help her, but couldn't. I heard Charles says, I heard about this story. Pretty unusual. Yeah, it's unusual, Charles, because it's fake. Charles says, thought it was fake too. Gordon, yeah, something off from the start. Charles says, fishy indeed. Lisa says, I assumed Carlee was hallucinating. Sarah agrees with me. Everything. Hey, there's everything. What's going on? You're on to it, Ed. Hi, by the way, mate. What's going on, everything? Good to see you. I thought it was a mental health issue, especially after seeing the way she was driving on the CCTV footage. Maybe drug issue, possibly. Twinkle loves the song Sarah Smile. Charlotte, where you can see the video on YouTube, just do a search for Carlee Russell video and you'll find it. Headlights also can't see things that don't exist. Look at you, Mark, making the joke. Mark made a funny. Tracy also says, yeah, didn't buy it for a second. Paula, lots of traffic for her to be the only one who saw a child. Can't wait to hear the 911 call. Yeah, I honestly thought I'd seen a smaller figure in what looks like a white diaper hanging in that footage. Anyone else? Mary, I watched it. I watched the video 20 times. I didn't see anything. Thank you, Sheree, for helping Charlotte out. Mary, I just don't know. I thought the doors, she showed a couple figures. Buzz. There's just nothing there. Now, I'm convinced this is all made up. And especially since she came home on her own. And I might have even read somewhere that she was barefoot or something. Mary says, I think my eyes were playing tricks on me, though, I guess now. Well, there can be confirmation bias, as it's been mentioned already before, I think, tonight in the show, Mary, is that you get told something, and then the way our minds work, we sometimes construe facts and everything to make it true. Now, why do people fall for this stuff? First of all, they're afraid not to. They're afraid not to fall for it. It takes real courage I guess. And I'm not trying to slap myself on the, pat myself on the back here, but it takes courage to say, you know what? I think that young woman who's trying to help out that kid on the side of the road, I think she's lying. And even I know that, even though I know I do this, and I know that there are many times with disappearances where I've had to say, all these popular theories out there, they're all crap. Maybe even going back to the Colonial Parkway murders with Keith Cullen and Sandy Haley. So many people believe all of those murders and the disappearances are connected. And then I come up and say, you know what? And there was a popular book that was written about the whole dang thing, trying to connect them all. And then I come out and say, nope, it's not true. They're all separate incidents. I'm not really trying to take away the fun of everybody from everyone, but it's my job, being that I've been doing this for 7 years, it's my job to treat these things truthfully. I'm not here for the entertainment. So, some people just want to believe this stuff. They're afraid that if they don't go along with the popular story, that, well, what kind of bad, how dare you say that a missing young woman is lying? How dare you? Well, having covered 300 disappearances now, and most of you listening to most of them, we know that, guess what? Missing people do go miss, do lie. Mara Murray did lie. I still want her to be found alive, but Mara Murray lied more than once. Don't care. I still, once again, hope she's found alive. I hope Mara Murray comes home alive tomorrow. You can hope that somebody is alive and well and comes home and still call the person a liar. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. But I think too many people get caught up in, well, something bad might have happened here, so I'm going to play it safe and I'm just going to buy into it. Even though there may be parts in the back, subconsciously thinking, you know what, this doesn't seem right. So, how dare you question the word of a woman saving a child? How dare you? Well, sometimes you have to do that. And it gets to the point where facts and comment, you take this too far. Facts and common sense don't start to matter. And unfortunately, there could then going to be some people out there who start saying, well, you're trying to blame the victim. No, I'm telling you what I think. So why do people fall for this stuff? They're afraid not to. And then a second reason is the internet kooks don't help. This is, this is a side effect of too many people like David Paulides who market theories out there that have no basis in fact. Another example is the smiley face killer. A lot of people want to buy into that, but what has it really done? It has really covered up the problem that we have in the United States is we have too many young people drinking and getting drunk and falling into bodies of water and drowning. Instead, people will market the kook theory instead. And what does that then cause? It causes people to look away from the real problem. They create a fake problem because it's entertaining, it gets them attention, it makes people buy their books and everything else. And what continues to happen? Young people continue to get drunk out of their minds and kill themselves. It's disgusting. This is one of the main reasons I hate kooks about all these different theories regarding murders and disappearances and conspiracies and everything else. Because usually all it does is serve to cover up true, real problems that need solutions. And then what eventually comes along is something like this with Carlee, and too many people have been conditioned to believe that there are people out there waiting on the side of the road with luring, people with kids. This is how we get to this point. Too many in my profession portray the world as if this stuff happens. It doesn't. Once again, facts and common sense don't matter. And the bizarre part of it is that even with this video that is now out there, maybe, I'm not here to pick on you, Mary, but even as the video is out there for everybody to see, for some people, they watch it and the video doesn't, I think watching the video, it absolutely shows that there was no kid on the side of the road. She was by herself. She walked off. She was on the side of the road, driving on the side of the road. There's no way when she pulled off to the side of the road, she could have seen it show on and on and on. But there are many people who watch that video and think, yeah, what she described in the 911 call is what happened on the video. Whereas I'm looking at the video and I'm seeing something totally different. I continue to believe this is a symptom of too many, once again, in my profession, podcasters, YouTubers who cover true crime and disappearances and everything, exaggerating what goes on out there in the real world, trying to, because they can't make just the real facts interesting and engaging for people, they have to make stuff up. I think that's how we get to this point. Of course, I could say that about a lot of different, not just true crime media. I could say that about sports media, political media, Hollywood media, everything. All of it. It's just not one story. It's conditioning over years and years and years and years and years to the point that, it's like, are you going to trust me or your lying eyes? So I think these are some of the reasons that people fall for this stuff. And that's not helping anything. Let's go up and see. Sheree says it's very hard to see anything in that video. Yeah. By the way, a tip for everybody. If you're watching any video like that, don't blow it up. All right. The last thing you want to do if you're watching something on YouTube, the quality of the video is not going to get better if you make it full screen. The quality of the video is going to get worse. The proper thing to do when you're looking at a video like that is to leave it small and get a magnifying glass out. Do not blow it up because it gets pixelated. If you keep it small and use a magnifying glass, that's the way to get a clearer picture. If you really want to zoom in on something, don't blow it up. Use a magnifying glass. Tip. The video is very hard to see clearly on now what you're seeing. That's right. I was skeptical, but I thought I saw something on CCTV. Everything says just getting over COVID, Ed. Oh my goodness. Okay. Mary says, yeah, Ed, heavy drinking actually scares me. It does me too. That's why I'm non-drinker, Mary. Always will be. I saw a video that she claimed she disappeared in 2008. Planned. Who are you talking about, Grace? May have needed to explain that. Mary, haha, eyes can totally play tricks, meaning mine. Rockford. The look theories sell. They cover up done behavior and also distract from these cases that are more complex. Christopher Jenkins, Kyle Fleischman, Jason Wilkowski, Paige Renkowski. Absolutely true. And what was really funny to go on about this, and I sent this to my assistants today, is when the acquittal of Michael Turney happened today, there is a well-known guy whose name we did not mention in the Mara Murray double episode, I guess, who actually had the gall to go onto Twitter and say, see, this is what happens when web sleuthing and such gets out of control. This should teach anybody a lesson. And this is coming from the guy who has sensationalized Mara Murray's disappearance more than everybody else put together. And he's saying this is how the acquittal of Mike Attorney shows how sleuthers, online sleuths and everything else don't know what they're doing. I mean, you talk about the chutzpah, and I'm not even Jewish. I mean, that happened today, and I copied it and sent it to my assistants. I just could not believe it. Grace, God bless you. Oh, thank you, Grace. I certainly would like to hear you're talking about from 2008. Didn't somebody actually see someone at her car? I don't know. Facebook. Good night, Charlotte. Good seeing you. Grace, thank you so much for the contribution. You're very generous there. Thank you. Thank you. Carlee went missing. I don't think she's only 25, Grace. So 15 years ago, she went missing. So she was 10. That's news to me. Wow. Okay. I hope this girl's held responsible for this. Not good. I guess she did it before the channel. I saw it. It was on Silk Road. She went missing and it was planned 15 years ago when she was 10. Once again, I have to start wondering about things. She 10-year-old ran away. I don't know. Okay. So I think she was lying. I don't know what she's going through in her life. If she has mental health issues, I hope she gets it. This could have almost been a Sherry Papini situation all over again. But maybe she just wanted the attention. Like some people who, try to commit suicide, but don't. It's really a cry for help. Maybe that's what she was trying to do here. But I hope she gets the bill for all those police officers who went out there and looked for her. My guess is she was probably at some guy's house. I bet. That's my guess. The guy you reference is absolutely shameless in descending into self-parody. Yeah, you're right, Rockford. That's not mentioned. We shall not mention his name here. This is a name that shall not be mentioned because we don't want to give him any attention. But Rockford, you're right. That's a great way to put it. He is shameless to the point of self-parody. Absolutely. He says he did do a comedy club tour. That's funny. All right, one more thing. I just want to talk about sex trafficking for just a moment. Of course, it's big in the news because there is this movie out called Sound of Freedom that's about sex trafficking, not necessarily in the United States. I've not seen the movie. I'm not going to see the movie simply because I have enough realism in my life as it is. With the job that I do with disappearances, I don't need to see a movie that obviously, can be depressing and everything else. I do enough depressing stuff on a daily basis, talking to people who have had their lives shattered. But as I was seeing, the reason I want to talk about this for a moment is because a friend of mine who's not into true crime at all, brought this up to me, and, I gave him a long thing about sex trafficking. I think all of you have to realize, does sex trafficking happen? Yes. But you also have to realize, and I actually went and looked at this. I went to NamUs. I realized that NamUs is not it's not the full database of all the missing people in the United States. Maybe one day it will be. That's like 23,000 some people on there. Whereas I'm guessing that the number is closer to 100,000 unsolved disappearances. But you should know, I did a search for missing children under there 10 and under. So 10 years old and under, doesn't matter what gender. There are 849 of them. Okay, in the United States. Of course, NamUs only covers the United States and its territory. I think United States and its territories too. So there are 849, according to NamUs, children 10 and under whose disappearances are unsolved as of today. Do you know how many children under the age of 10 there are in the United States as of today in 2023? About 48 million. There are 48 million children 10 and under in the United States. And I know every one of them is a tragedy, but only 849 have gone missing, or still missing unsolved disappearances since the paperwork started for disappearances. That the best place we can go is NamUs. If you're wondering about the odds of that, that means it's 1 in 57,000. So 1 in 57,000 children 10 and under will go missing on average. All of them are terrible. I wish none of these 849 kids went missing. But I think this shows that, at least when it comes to American children, certainly some of those missing kids could have been trafficked. But when you put it in those terms, how big is the issue? I certainly want it solved. I'm not poo-pooing it, but it helps to look at the numbers. We do not have what you would call a huge sex trafficking of children problem in the United States. Do we have a child abuse problem? Yes. But guess who's doing that? The children's parents. These kids who are getting abused, the much bigger problem we have in the United States is all the kids who haven't gone missing, but who have been abused by their parents, by priests, by Boy Scout leaders, by coaches, and everything else. That is the big issue in the United States. Now, when it comes to other countries, here's something that we as Americans maybe don't realize. We start talking about sex trafficking of children in other countries. A lot of these kids were sold away by their parents. It sucks. Horrible. Horrible, 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 horrible. But what I'm also saying is that these children are not being stolen. They're being sold. And so when we as Americans, we go to see this movie, it sounds horrible. It certainly is. But I don't know what we can do about it as Americans when parents in other countries outside of our jurisdiction are selling their kids away. I don't know what kind of responsibility we have that. Certainly have a responsibility if some of these kids are making it in the United States, certainly. Other than that, I don't know what we can do about it. It's certainly horrible. We wish you could fix it and everything, but so I just want all of you to keep that in mind. Regarding that, I'm kind of running out of time here. Maybe I'll touch upon that more next week, but that's kind of to put this all in perspective, is that this is why I'm like, once again, I'm not an advocate or, something like that, because advocates for sex trafficking or any other topic out there are more than happy to distort the facts. They're more than happy to put anything under the title of sex trafficking. If a grown woman decides she wants to be a prostitute and go out in the street or put an ad on Craigslist or wherever else saying, you know what, I'll do this to you for this amount of money, that's not sex trafficking. Whereas my impression is a lot of people will put that type of situation, sex trafficking, once again, to boost the numbers. To me, that's not sex trafficking. And in all of the disappearances that we've covered, really, we only have one that could be connected to sex trafficking. 300 disappearances, one. Of course, it's Jessie Foster. But even with that one, I'm not sure she went missing because of the sex trafficking. I think she went missing because her sister was coming down from Canada to see her in Vegas. And Jessie Foster's pimp was wondering about what was going to happen when the sister got there and figured out what was going on. That's what I think happened. So there's that. I'm going to read everybody's messages, and then I'm going to go to this Friday's disappearance. Real got a text message in Australia about a missing person. When we hosted the Super Bowl years ago, I worked at the airport, and all employees had to take a class to identify human trafficking, We called it hooker training. You hardly ever get message regarding Carlee. If she was really kidnapped, law enforcement was screaming about the details. Their silence says a lot to me, says Cherie. Mary says she's excitable, hence all the exclamation points. You and Elaine Bennis. Remember that Seinfeld? Elaine Bennis liked to use the exclamation points, Mary. The problem with parents hurting their own kids. Yeah. You want to start looking at child problems, not just in the United States, but everywhere. The first issue you have to start with is the parents, not with strangers combing. I mean, does it happen? Yeah. Kids get, Jacob Wetterling got kidnapped by a stranger. It happens. But that is the exception. The rule is parents making their own kids disappear. Parents, and I'm nothing embarrassing. Of course, I have a father I love dearly. I love my mother dearly. She's deceased. I love her dearly. Great parents. But parents are the cause of most of their children's problems. The problem with trying to unravel child's disappearance is that one can usually find problems at home, and then your unreliable narrator witness there. That's why I try to avoid it for the most part, Rockford. Deborah's leaving. All right, Deborah, thank you for joining me tonight. And on that, let's move to this Friday. We're actually going in the opposite direction of children this Friday. We're going to an 87-year-old, Betty Tepfer, Toepfer. Betty Tepfer from Riverside, California. We've gone there before. You might remember Ashley Kohler. Betty Tepfer was 87. She was living with her grown son. She got on the bus in Harupa Valley Road. Took this short trip to downtown Riverside on April 8th, 2015. There's a video of her getting off the bus. She was never seen again. She will be, by age, the oldest person we've ever covered on Unfound. 87 years old. I think the previous record was 83 years old, but 87 years old. Unfortunately, there was no video in downtown Riverside that could help investigators. Also, unfortunately, is right after she went missing, the son that was living with her went missing for a short time as well. And of course, then later came back, but then did not assist in trying to find his mother at all. But the problem is there's no proof that he was in downtown Riverside to pick her up or that she ever made it home that day. So, and Betty's granddaughter, Mary, will be the guest. Once again, Barry Tepfer, Toepfer, Riverside, California, April 8th, 2015. Granddaughter Mary is the guest. And this is the oldest missing person we've ever featured on Unfound. 87 years old when she went missing in 2015. That is it. The first Unfound Live using StreamYard. I hope everybody found it engaging. And why say I love it? No, I'm not a stalker. Sharon. Oh, Sharon, I missed that comment. Thank you, Sharon. I appreciate that. But that is the first show with StreamYard. Thank you all so much. If you haven't given this video a thumbs up, please do. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Get involved with the page, the discussion group, all of that. And you will hear me on Friday for the disappearance of Betty Tepfer. Thank you all for taking part in this new era of the live show. Good night. And Charlie, please say hi to the boys for me. Thank you so much. Great comments tonight. Great questions. Great conversation. Spectacular. Everybody stay safe out there. Heads on swivels. Remember that. Good night.